Welcome back to Dixon Does It. Today we're going to be talking about radiators. More specifically, we're going to talk about radiators that have water in them. They're called hydronic radiators. So if you see the word hydronic, that means they are full of water. There's also radiators with steam in them, and we will not be going over those today. Steam radiators should really be taken care of by a professional. Okay, on to the radiators. So here's your typical radiator. They come in all different sizes and shapes and, colors and stuff like that. But typically, they should be warm when your heat is on. Sometimes they're very hot. That all depends on what temperature your boiler's at in the basement. Some boilers are set for a little warmer than others. That's a cat toy behind there, by the way. Your basics on a radiator is you have the water coming in on one side, and you can always tell that it's got that little valve on it. The water comes in, the heat rises, comes to the top, and radiates away from the radiator. When the water cools down, or if you have a pump, it pushes it back out and down back to the boiler to get heated again and start all over again. On one end, you should have what's called a bleeding valve or a bleeder valve. And if you live in an old house, and I live in an old house, you'll find the key for it. So somewhere in an old house, typically hanging somewhere, maybe in the basement, you may find a little key that looks like this. And it's got a little square end on it. I have one in my pocket at all times because that's the business I'm in. Sometimes they look like this. And they have like a little screwdriver part on there because sometimes these have a slot. You can put the screwdriver part in there. You don't have to use this, or you can just get a screwdriver. So having that little slot in there makes it a lot more practical to use maybe a screwdriver. But usually they have a little square and they go right on there. Another thing you're going to need for a bleeding is a little catch tube. I got this out of the recycling bin because if your radiator is not heating up, but the others are, it's probably full of air. And the air needs to come out because if water, the hot water, can't get up here, these aren't going to get hot. So if you go around and feel all your radiators and one of them's not as hot as the others, you've probably got air in there. So let's bleed this. With one hand, you're going to put your little catch can underneath the bleeder because water's going to come out. If this is hot and you're trying to bleed it, hot water's going to come out and you could injure yourself. So be careful with that. But if it's hot, there's no need to bleed it. Now you take your screwdriver or your key. I'm going to use a screwdriver here. And you're just going to open it up counterclockwise and watch for water to come out. See the water coming out? Okay. Water may get on your floor. It's not a lot of water. You can always wipe it up. If water keeps dripping out of your bleeder valve or around here, it's time for a new one. Some of them are very old and hard to get out. And if you can't get this out, it's going to get water all over the place, and you may need to call a professional. The water should be shut off at the boiler, so no more water gets into the system. And you should have to drain it a little bit. But if you're unsure on how to do one of these, call your local professional, your HVAC contractor, and he can help you with that. All right, moving on to the other side. So there, you got the air out. There's water coming out. You know there's water in here. But it's still not hot. The other ones are hot. You're hot. Why aren't you? Well, maybe it's not on. Like I said, these little valves, they let the water in. So if this has water in it, water's dribbling out, it's not coming out. Maybe this isn't on or off. See if you can open it, turn it. Don't force it. Don't put a wrench on there and try to crack it open if it's not moving. Mine's not moving, but I know that it's open because this is hot. If you can turn it on or off, One reason to have it off is nobody uses the dining room. Why am I heating the dining room? I have 2 radiators. They're both hot. This room is hot. Fuel oil cost me $800 last month. Turn it off. Why am I heating this room? Well, we don't want the paint to crack. Turn one of them off. You don't have to have them both on. Okay, well, this radiator looks nice. Some of them are ugly. This is a nice radiator in the kitchen, but that's an ugly color. You can paint these. What my wife's been doing is Lady Dixon, gets in there, cleans it all up, gets all the loose paint off and stuff. It shouldn't be rusty, but sometimes it's rusty. And they sell a high temperature paint for grills, and you could use that. You just paint it on there, make sure you tarp off underneath, and maybe slide stuff down the back, and just get in there with some brushes. Get some long handle brushes, just get in there and some high temperature paint. And that's not going to stop the heat from coming out. This is a radiator. It radiates the heat away. It's not going to block heat. That paint's going to heat up just as hot as the metal, and it's still going to do its thing. So yeah, some of them are ugly. Not too much going on with radiators. They heat up or they don't. If they're not heating up, then there's probably air in them. If all of them aren't heating up, then it's probably your furnace or boiler that is not coming on, and you should call your heating professional to see what's going on. All right, that's been Dixon Does It. Peace, y'all.